Yeah, Mixtape Volume 3. Woo! Let's go.
Please welcome to stage my good friend Ceci.
Thanks, Greg. All right, so what am I speaking to you about today? You got my background from Greg. I've spent my whole career in developer platforms. I don't know how or why, but I have loved it. And now I run, there's a reason why I'm explaining this, a developer go-to-market consultancy. So I work with clients. I am a business partner. Her name's Paige. Shout out, she's the best. We work with clients who basically have developer products and are trying to win over more developers. And the point of this talk, so those clients are like, let me give you examples like Stripe, Twitter, Airtable, and then early stage companies too. So Render, WorkOS, Prefect, if you've heard of them, are clients. So the title of this talk is basically, how do I do developer marketing and not make developers hate us? That's the conversation I have usually with CEOs or leadership that reach out to us because they're scared. And there's a reason why they're scared. It's because developers are known as being allergic to marketing. And raise your hand if you agree with that. Are people like scared of doing developer marketing? So some people are. There's this feeling that like, oh, if we do marketing, developers are going to hate it. Why are they going to hate it? And I am here to say developers are not allergic to marketing. They're allergic to bad marketing. And hopefully you are allergic to bad marketing too. It's just that this is a slightly different audience from a classic audience that might have been marketing to. So we're going to talk about how to do developer marketing that they don't hate. So we're going to go through 4 things that are bad that I would avoid, and then 5 things that are hopefully good that I would go for. My speaking notes are physical paper, so let's see how this plays. So bad number 1. Usually, this is the greatest offender. It's tone-deaf marketing. When you're saying things like, strategic alignment, driving success, join the movement, create customer magic, though there will be an actual magic show at this conference, which will be awesome. You're often going to repel the developer audience. And why is that? It's because you've probably hired someone who's an amazing marketer from more of an enterprise background, and those are the words that an enterprise buyer often likes to see. All these words pretty much, I think all of them, I pulled from Salesforce.com's homepage and then a couple other like big enterprise, successful companies. Like these words aren't bad, they're just not great for a developer audience. And we'll talk about why in a minute. Anything else that you should know? Okay, it would have been really fun if I were like, click next slide. Here's an example of someone who sucks. But I didn't want to be that mean, so so I'm going to give you examples of things that I like or that people think are generally good. The first is the behemoth, the giant in the room. This is AWS's Lambda's website. Man, those little cards, they are cut and dry. They're kind of boring, but frankly, as developer product marketing goes, they're just so tight. Like they are beautiful and I love them because they're so straightforward. And really good developer marketing is straightforward, straight to the point. This is Vercel. I think a lot of people like to copy them right now too. What I love about their sort of like just headline of their page is they're getting straight to who they're for. I think another mistake we often make in this world of developer marketing is just assuming that all developers are the same. And it turns out there are a bunch of different jobs within the category of being a developer. So this is for front-end developers, and that's very helpful to see. Okay, second danger, doing nothing at all. That's a cricket. It's kind of dark on a dark background. This one's interesting because I think there are a lot of companies that do nothing and are still very successful at marketing. And that's because, and this is a really important thing to know or to like consider as you're thinking about doing developer go-to-market, there are a bunch of people at your company who are doing developer marketing or developer relations, whatever you want to call it, who don't have that title. Those people are often your founders who are sharing about the company online. They're your DevRel. They're product managers who have really strong followings in different social spheres. So I would really think about before you like do nothing, or before you say like, oh, we can't do nothing, we have to do more. Think about who at your company is carrying the brand forward, and who cares about like what the company looks and feels like. If you guys tweet as a business, or if there's a company that tweets, is there someone internally who says that's not good enough? That person's actually doing the work of developer marketing in a lot of ways by being the sort of like sieve that everything has to go through. Another person who's doing developer marketing, but maybe isn't actually using that, having that title, is someone who can effectively explain what the product does. That is product marketing. And then finally, someone who's helping bring more developers into the business. Those are all developer marketing activities, even if that person doing those things is not a marketer. If a company is doing that successfully, just scale those efforts. Find someone who can take from what everyone else in the company is already doing and grow them. Now, if there's no one at a company who's doing those things, here's the bad situation. You aren't doing anything to win over developers. You're not going to grow, so you're going to build it, they're not going to come. You're going to look really messy and inconsistent. This is a very bad experience. One of the ways I think about developer go-to-market is like, do people want to hang out with you? Like, do developers want to associate with your brand? Like, is your cool something they want to be around? If you're really messy and inconsistent, they're not going to want to. And then finally, you're going to have people who show up to use your product, but then are going to be like, I don't understand how this works, and leave pretty quickly. Bad 3, trying to outmarket a weak product. This is my one animation. It's interesting. I was like, I don't know if I should include this or not, but I actually think it's important because in enterprise software and in consumer products, you actually can outmarket a product that isn't fully there. You can your sales team can kind of go out and win customers over for you in enterprise. And in consumer, if you build a brand that's cool enough, people will put up with a subpar product just to hang out with your brand. But in the world of developer tools, your audience wants to use the stuff. They want to get their hands on it. So if once they use it, it's not doing it for them, it's not actually delivering on the value you're promising, you're not going to succeed with marketing. And as a marketer who's dealt with products that aren't there yet, I think the biggest part of my job at that point was to turn around and say like, hey, you need to fix the product. That's the big priority. Bad 4, forgetting about other audiences. So when you're building a developer product, it's often like, yes, we're going to be so technical, we're going to just focus on developers. The problem is developers do not work in isolation. They work with an entire company, and so you have to consider product managers, you have to consider everyone else who might be here who's not a developer as you're doing your marketing. Basically, have a couple landing pages for them. Make sure that you're friendly to a non-technical audience in a couple of places, and that will enable you to get adopted. All right, so we went through the bads. So what's good? This is my cheat code slide. So if you want to build a cool developer brand, here are my tips. Number 1, you need a cool 3D graphic that spins. It's just sitting there on your website and it's morphing and it's cool and it's some kind of developer text. Gradients are highly suggested. If you can figure out it's purple, it's blue, it's pink, it's changing, that's good. Blurple is pretty much a given. The blurple thing always works. It doesn't get old. I don't know why. Here's your color palette. Oh, you can't see my little readme owl that's peeking over the top of my palette. It's always cute to have a little extra mascot. You can't overdo it too much, but you want to throw the cute mascot in there a little bit. What else? You definitely need some code snippets and at least a portion of your site that is in dark mode. You're welcome. You have a developer brand. You're done. All right, I'm just kidding, but I'm also not kidding because I'm literally working on a website overhaul with a client right now, and we've looked at all the developer products and all the developer sites, and it's they really are all the same. So there you go, that's it. Good 1. Okay, this is so, is this from 4th grade? Maybe. When did you learn this in school? You were little, you were small. Show, don't tell. Now, what I mean by this is it's not you only can use visuals to convey things to developers. As they were just talking about, developers do read, and they like to read. But when you are writing, instead of saying this product is really fast, or this product can handle a lot of load, or a small amount of load, do what you saw in the AWS Lambda card, which is from a dozen events per day to hundreds of thousands per second. They're showing, they're not telling. It's also really useful to use code snippets, like I just said. But this example from WorkOS, it's actually not just it's not the snippet that's useful. They're showing and not telling all the different languages their product is available in. That's really useful. It's also really fast to grok. I don't have to think about it very much. I can just click through. I have a fly.io example at the way top of the page that you can't really see that well. That is another sort of show example. I'm going to bring this to life a little more. So I was at Slack for 4.5 years running platform marketing. So developer marketing, partner marketing, customer-facing product marketing for all these great integrations that work with Slack. We kept trying and banging our heads against the wall. Okay, so one of the secret problems we had with marketing at Slack was we had a really hard time telling you what Slack is. We weren't allowed to use the word chat because internally our phrase was chat is cheap. So we couldn't say Slack is a chat app. So we had to like figure out all these ways to describe Slack. So we already couldn't describe the product very well. And then on top of that, my team was in charge of trying to describe what these integrations are to customers who are not necessarily technical. And what we found by doing some studies is that by just actually showing a customer or a prospect an integration in action, they got it very quickly, as opposed to like a really long-winded explanation of what the product does. So again, there are places where just simply showing the product, a picture is worth 1,000 words. I'll shut up now. Oh, I love this example. So has anyone heard of like rough? It's a Python linter. Okay. I don't even really know what a linter is, but this is what I do. Okay, so this is from, you know what? It's great. It works out. Okay, so rough is this Python linter, and as you can see from this example, it's really, really fast. It's actually so fast that a company I'm working with is like, it was so fast that I had to like check that it actually ran because it happened too quickly for me to be like, did it run? This is from Astral's website. They work with these products, and what I love about it is it's really bringing that like speed reality to life. So they're comparing rough in real time to all these other options that you could use. And what's fun is like these bars load as you sit on the website. So I took the screenshot at 23 seconds and didn't want to wait longer, but I feel like that's a really beautiful example of showing and not telling about the product. All right, good number 2, we are at the README conference, so I don't need to spend a whole lot of time on this point, but I think it's really, really important to say your docs, when you're a developer product, are more important than actually anything else. They're more important than your marketing site. They're more important than your content play. They are the place that developers go straight to. Whenever we work with a client, we think about like, how do we get them into the docs right away? Why? Because that's where the customer or the developer is going to get engaged with your product, which you're trying to do. You're trying to move them down the funnel. And 2, that's where developers live. That's where they want to go. They don't want to be marketed to. So when you're thinking about your docs, they need to be clear, really well written, and your IA, like information architecture, needs to be very, very nice. It's easy if you've had an API for a long time for your information architecture or your docs just to get like really hairy. I know that sounds so simple, but this is just often a part of your business that is not always getting like a ton of attention, a ton of money, and a ton of service. So figuring out how to make sure you're really clean and crisp is important. Samples to pull from quickly, ways to engage the developer to that next step instead of just a lot of text is also really important. I'm not going to go further on this because I think you all get it. 3, be succinct. Hopefully I'm being sort of succinct. Maybe I'm not. You can tell me later. This is, I think, one of the most important things. It kind of is the exact same point as what I made in maybe points 1 and 2, or if you looked at the bads, sort of like being tone deaf is being not succinct with developers. Be ruthless about your marketing copy. If you have business jargon, if you have sort of lingo in there, just eliminate all of it because this audience is aware of that and they don't want to be marketed to, quote unquote. They want you to speak like them. I think one of the most important things you can do, I am amazed at how few companies do this, or how few marketers at companies do this, is get whoever's writing marketing stuff or whoever's building the docs to talk with your audience, your customers once in a while. If you're speaking with your developers once in a while, you will speak in their language. If you have someone doing marketing who does not talk to them ever, it's going to be very hard to make sure that your marketing and your language are actually matching up. So this is like the opposite of being tone deaf. The other 2 points are really basic. Like use that Hemingway tool. It's online. It's been there forever. And the last one I think is really important to do right. So if you're working on any kind of content, you can run it by your internal development team. And if they have this like, ugh, I hate this reaction, that's actually a pretty good way to gauge it. It is dangerous to assume that because someone is a developer, they're therefore going to be a good marketer. I think that's like a bad way to think. But they are your target audience in many ways, depending on the type of developer they are. If they hate something that you're trying to produce or trying to put out, consider that. Take it as a piece of input. Okay, content marketing. We've all heard about content marketing. We all read Lenny's newsletter. We're all doing content these days. So if you're going to do content, which you probably are, because you've heard that if you build your content marketing engine, it becomes this flywheel that drives growth for your business. That is all true. If you're doing it in developer land, you need to be serving up steaks. This is not a vegetarian-friendly analogy. I'm sorry. You need to be serving up chickpeas. High protein. Basically, the danger of content marketing is that you're going to hire someone who's done content marketing at more of a classic enterprise company, and the content they've produced is just at a very different level from what a developer is looking for. So a lot of the time a developer is looking for content that actually answers a question they have, and that's usually a technical question. So you want to find a content marketing team that's technical. This is a great place to put DevRel, in my opinion. Make things you actually want to read. This is like the really hot company in this category right now. Fly.io is a great example of like really amazing content marketing. Their content marketing play is working so well for them. A lot of developers who I work with who are CEOs of solid companies look at Fly.io as like the example of who they want to be, and they regularly read them. What's really good about these examples? They're answering real questions. Do I have my other points here? They're succinct. No. I don't know. I think the biggest thing you see here is that they're like actually solving a technical problem, and this post is going to go into the details of that. And that's interesting for someone to read and share. It's also something that people, like developers, can engage around and have opinions about, as opposed to a listicle or like a how to take an ice bath early in the morning so that you're a better person or something like that. Okay, good number 5. This is another sort of like, one up for README, because README does a really great job of supporting your product to sort of reach developers in different states. But let me walk you through, I think this is actually one of the most important points here. Let's just like pretend you have a developer landing on your documentation. There's one developer who shows up and wants to use like a drag and drop or copy paste product, or even like a no code product to integrate your API. There's another developer who shows up and they want to use like the totally raw endpoint, just the API, because they're going to do like a very custom, bespoke integration with your product. When I describe those two developers, often in our heads we think, oh, the really junior developer is the one who shows up and like wants to use the copy paste or the like totally no code option, and the really senior like hardcore developer is the one who wants to build this like really custom, they spend a bunch of time tinkering thing. It's actually not true. I've done a bunch of developer interviews to learn that that is not true. It can often be the case that whoever developer shows up, sometimes the really senior person is building a much bigger project, has way bigger fish to fry. You have a no-code option, and they're like, sweet, get that integration out of my way. I'm going to go work on the bigger project with the bigger goal. And often the more junior developer shows up, and they're actually like being assigned to this integration project so that they can cut their teeth or prove themselves in their first couple months on the job that they can build a really thoughtful, well-built integration. What's important is that you're providing both to developers. So this is not like this person's so much better and therefore they get the really hardcore, like no strings attached, everything's just like totally customizable option. What's important is that you provide lots of different levels of samples to people, because that's going to help you with the whole point of this, with activating your developers to actually use your product. So that's how I think about that. There are a lot of different ways to like help engage developers. I'm going to show you a couple. Ooh. Okay, quick pin in this. What I was going to say about good documentation is that there's one company that's sort of like the most iconic developer marketing company or developer brand company in the last 10 years. It's probably Stripe, I would say. Why? I'm pretty sure Stripe is such an iconic developer brand, largely because their docs were just like unparalleled. Like I remember taking the Caltrain home like 7 years ago and being like, I'm just so jealous of Stripe's docs. Actually a thought I had. Like they've just always been the best at it. So that's why your docs should be good. But anyway, fast forward back to this side. Here's Stripe. This is Stripe's website. Like this is their documentation. Look, the left column, no code options. The right column, total API reference, everything you could ever need. They're a huge developer brand. They're offering both to their developers. Even if some totally non-technical people are using no code, there are actually a lot of developers using no code, which is surprising. So have lots of on-ramps. There are other ways to think about on-ramps too. This is Plaid's website. This is just like drilled into their quick start guide and their documentation. What's interesting about them is like, here's all the quick start guide. It's not just, oh, here's the links of like introduction. Like that's what I would expect. There's also videos. I know it's so basic, but just providing some more on-ramps for developers are going to give you more chances at acquiring them. So consider all the different ways you could do that. Make sure you're like reaching people in different coding languages, things like that. So development languages. So in summary, Here's the bad stuff. I could read it all to you again, but I probably shouldn't. Here's the good stuff. That's how I think about doing good versus bad developer marketing. The next question really is, how do you go ahead and reach them? We do not have time for that right now. If it's something you want to see, feel free to reach out to me. I'm Ceci at Calyx.consulting, and I'm also on Twitter, but I'm also just very happy, I actually have this somewhat written. If you really want to see it, I will email it back to you. I'm not trying to acquire you as a client. This is a genuine, I have it there, but we didn't have time to fit it in. So yeah, so good to speak with you all. Have so much fun. Look forward to the magic show.
Hey, API, Mixtape Volume 3. Woo! Let's go.